about mobile apps and group selling. Tonight, I'm just hitting a few more of the mobile apps. And when I upload the additional training, I will talk some about the Facebook Marketplace and some other marketplaces that are cropping up, and then how you can get into selling on some of the groups as well. So we talked last week or the week before about how we are using these apps. And so this works really well to our benefit, because we've talked a lot about how you can get started without having to go out and source and without having to spend a ton of money. So if you've got things in your own home, I think all of us do, we will show you how you can use some of these apps. We talked some last time about a few of the other apps, but we're going to show you how you can sell your own stuff and how you can do some of that straight from your phone using these apps. At least one of the apps I talked about last week has a desktop option or a desktop version, but most of the time these are apps that you can use kind of on the go. They're very easy to use, very easy to upload, and easy to, you know, get the app right in your hand. So just a little help from your smartphone, and you'll be on moving along, selling your own stuff. One of the things that we talked about with the mobile apps is if you are meeting to make an exchange, merchandise for cash, sometimes you might offer other payment platforms, and people might pay you in advance if it's a larger amount. I've done that because I just don't want to be carrying the cash, and you know, someone could follow you. But just make sure you're always considering all of those safety issues. Not carrying a lot of cash, not going alone if you can help it, not going to remote places, and always, if there is an opportunity, check the websites and see if your area offers safe exchange zones. Some of them call them safe area exchange. But if you don't have one of those and you can't meet somewhere that's specifically allocated for that, just make sure that you go someplace where you know there's lots of people, and if possible, cameras. Walmart is one of my favorite locations to make exchanges, just because I know it's always going to be super packed, and I know that they have cameras all over the parking lot. I like to go ahead and get there a few minutes early and actually wait at the entrance. And then when the buyer comes, I'll tell them, you know, I'm at the entrance. And that way there's plenty of people out there, and I know that there are cameras out there. So we talked about reasons to sell, but just going over it as a review, this is a great way to make extra cash. You can make cash by selling your items, and all of these apps kind of have an option in there for you to be able to refer others for either cash. I know the app we talked about last time had some other options as far as auctioning and getting some points that way too. But everyone could use some extra cash, whether you're actually using these apps to buy your inventory, or if you actually use the extra cash that you make to take care of some things around your own household, bills or household needs. If you've got inventory that you've had pulled back off of Amazon because it was restricted or because somehow it got stranded, this is a great way to be able to offload some of those things. There's tons of apps out here. We're just covering a few of them. If you have an allocated space, maybe for inventory, or maybe it's just a spot in your house that you've accumulated a lot of things. Maybe you've acquired some stuff and you've got, some people have a junk drawer or a junk bureau or a junk closet or whatever that is, area in your garage. This is a great way to get rid of some of those things and actually make money by selling items that you're not using. If you're not using them, let's put them to use and make it an advantage to you. Again, you can use those funds to actually buy your inventory, or you can use those funds to address the household needs. So we are here at eCom Seller Summit to eCom sellers to make sure that you have a whole lot of different ideas. We like to give you different opportunities, show you different opportunities that you can use to actually generate income online. And so this is a different way. It may be a little less traditional than when you join the Academy, some of the things that we've been talking about, but it is absolutely a viable option. So if you have or like to collect items, or you have vintage items that you may have either inherited or that you know, you've just kept over the years, you can find people that are looking for specific things on these apps. And because it's more local, if you've got fragile items, this is a great way to be able to get rid of those as well. If you have pieces of china or pieces or parts to a collectible that have been discontinued and they're no longer available in the mainstream retail market, these apps are where people go to look for it. We talked some about Craigslist, which was, 20, 25, almost 30 years ago. And these apps are the new Craigslist. There's actually a Craigslist app as well. It's a third-party app because Craigslist does not have one. But these apps are the way that people are actually making these deals and getting things bought and sold. The other thing is that you can actually save time using these apps. I know that with a garage sale, I've not done it in a long time, but pulling all the items out and pricing everything and hanging them up and folding them up and arranging them and then having to pull it all back in at the end of the day. If you're doing a 2 or 3 day event, it can be very time consuming. And one of the things that we talk a lot about here is we are real people with very busy lives. We are not one of the groups or one of the platforms that's going to tell you, this is all super easy and we're, sitting out sipping pina coladas every day. I know me personally, I have children here in my home. And so there's always a lot of activity going on. And so on the weekend, sometimes I'm not able, I've tried several times actually this year to have a garage sale, but sometimes I'm just not able to work it into the schedule. So these apps will actually help you save time over the option of possibly having a garage sale. So you can take a few pictures of the items that you have around your house. That's pretty easy to do. You can upload those and actually be on your way to selling. So last time we talked some about Let Go. Let Go is the largest online selling app, but OfferUp is giving it a run for its money. They're very similar in the way that they are used, but because there are so many sites coming up, there are different apps coming up, that means that there's a lot more people. There's a lot more people on these apps, and if you are in an area where one of them is not readily available or used a lot, I suggest you download the others and try those. They're all free to use. They're all free to set up an account, especially if you just want to browse and see what's out there. But because there's a growing number of these sites popping up and the apps that you can download, it means that there's a lot of users. It makes it a lot easier to sell things online. I know in the past when I have listed things on Craigslist, Craigslist is still probably one of the top sites, but one of the complaints about Craigslist was, all the spam. You get a lot of people emailing you and wanting to send you, a cashier's check. I've had that happen so many times. But with these, you don't have to go through those sorts of transactions. So it makes it easier to sell. There's still the opportunity for people to send you bogus information or to, just kind of waste your time by inquiring and never following up. But it does make it easier to get those items moved. So as I mentioned, Let Go is actually the largest of all of the mobile selling apps. And these numbers are pretty recent. I think it was early part of this year, but they have about 50 million downloads, where OfferUp has about a fifth of that at 10. But this is what the logos look like if you want to go to your app store or your Play Store and actually download those. When you get them downloaded, you will be able to actually start browsing before you even really get an account set up, especially with Let Go because it has a desktop version. So again, just over 50 million downloads on Let Go, and even though there's 10 million on OfferUp, even though it doesn't have as many downloads, that does not mean that this is not a great app to try out. It's really, really gotten very popular. People are spending a lot of time on this app, even compared to the one with more downloads. You've got a lot more people using Let Go, maybe because of maybe you've seen the commercials they're doing from different types of marketing and that sort of thing. But this is one where people are spending a lot of time on it. So that means you've got kind of a captive audience. So I looked at this, and it's been a few years ago. I didn't find any recent numbers, but a few years ago, the average user was spending about 25 minutes every day on this app. Browsing, perusing, looking for stuff, trying to see what's out there, trying to see what's in their area. Some people might actually be listing things during that 25 minutes. But that figure compares to Snapchat, which is a very popular social media app. And for, the younger people, if you've got things that you're selling, the millennials now are, at the age where they're, in the buying population. So they're all of working age. And if they're out there on this app as much as they are on Snapchat and some of the social media sites, then that's a great opportunity for you to be able to list your items and sell them there. I actually use OfferUp mainly for sourcing. So do not forget about the fact that you can find some really good items out there. People have things that they're not using and they want to get rid of it. And if you can snag something for a great price and actually turn that item over, then that's another benefit to actually using these apps. So when we go and talk about OfferUp, I'll show you some actual images a little later, but I just wanted to kind of step through the process. So when you install the app, you're going to create a profile, and then in order to sell your items, each of the items has something similar, but there's a button on there that says you're going to sell. It wants you to actually choose a category. It wants you to actually upload photos. We recommend as many photos as possible just because it saves you time on the back end with someone asking questions. If you have a picture of the model number, if you have a picture that states the dimensions, if you have a picture, that shows the condition, if there's, flaws or whatever, then that cuts down on the number of times you're actually going to have to respond to questions and people reaching out to you to find out more information. So add as many pictures as possible, and you want to add a title and description. Just like we say with the other selling, anytime we're selling something, you want to be as thorough in your description as you can, as many characters as it will allow. And you want to make sure that you have a good title so that if someone is looking for something, again, we talk a lot about keywords, but if someone is searching for something, you want to make sure that you actually include things in the title that they might actually be looking for. So I like to use the example of, different people. I live in Texas, and it's kind of like a melting pot here, but people from different areas. I live in a military town, so there's people that may come from overseas, and there's people that may come from way down south, and there's people that may come from the East Coast, and everyone doesn't call things the same thing. And so I like to use the example of what I call a sofa, someone else may call a couch, and someone else may call a settee, or someone else may call it something else. And so even if you don't put it in your actual title, you want to make sure that somewhere in your description, you're using words that people will be able to actually locate your item if they're looking for it and they don't call it the same thing that you call it. I like to think about this with colors as well. I might call something, it may look teal to me. Someone may be looking for something that they think, they're looking for turquoise, but when they see it and the item comes up and, it's a variation of some type of greenish blue, they may actually be interested. So even though I have a rug and it's got teal in it, I may not want to just list it as teal, because everyone that's looking for a rug may not come across that particular item. If they type in bluish green rug, then my item may not come up. So you want to make sure that you're actually spending some time when you're actually putting your title and description in there. Make sure that you decide on a price. And now OfferUp does actually offer shipping. I know we talked some before about how some of the other sites did not offer shipping, and now that is an option. So when you get ready to put your item up, decide if it's an item you're willing to ship. And then when you go into the next step of reviewing offers that come through and actually negotiating, then that will be a piece of it. You want to agree on an exchange plan if you're not shipping it. And then you want to check, like we mentioned before, to see if there's a safe area or a safe zone that you can actually make the drop off. When you meet with that person, you're going to exchange the item, you're going to get your money. And as soon as you get back, I recommend that you actually go and review your buyer. Every one of these apps has kind of an in-app messaging service so that you don't have to share personal information like your email or your phone number, but you can just reach out to the buyer and thank them through the app and ask them to leave you a review. You want to build online credibility, especially if this is something that you're going to use often, whether it's for actually selling items or even if it's for sourcing items. Once you make that exchange, you want to make sure that you get a review if possible, because the more reviews you have, people are going to see that you've been on the site, that people know who you are. They kind of see it as, more a safer transaction if you've got several reviews and people are saying, that you showed up on time, that you were great to work with, and that, you did what you were supposed to do in this exchange. So there are actually a few benefits to OfferUp. I've mentioned them for some of the other apps, but you can actually go to the offerup.com website and browse online. You can do that to see what's in your area without even having to go and download the app if that's, not something you're going to do right away. But it actually will allow you to go and see what's available to buy in your area, and you can do that from your computer. If you want to actually go the next step, as we're suggesting, and sell items on the app, you will have to have an app. You will have to download the app onto your mobile device, and you will have to actually set up a profile to be able to do that. As I mentioned, they've also followed the competition, and they offer shipping now. And since that's an option, because you can ship it, obviously, they offer in-app payment now. It doesn't all have to be in cash anymore, and you don't have to, set up something separate like Facebook Pay or PayPal or something like that. If shipping wasn't an option and you were going to meet up with someone, you want to have those options already set up ahead of time. So if you want to actually buy something with shipping, like I said, if you get the app downloaded and you're wanting to go and see what kinds of things you can source, you can take a look and see what's available to be shipped to you just by going up to the very top. And at the top of the app, you'll have items that are available for pickup, and you'll also have items that are available for shipping. So as a seller, you have to specify that those items are going to be made available to ship if you want people outside of your local area to be able to see those. So that's just something to make a note of. So again, I wanted to just show you what some of the screens look like. If you didn't have a chance to get it downloaded before we got started, go to our link and download the app. You can follow along. So the OfferUp just looks like a price tag. You'll see it in your Play Store or on your App Store. And once you go there and you actually say that you're going to download it, I think that's in a later screenshot. But once you're in here, you're going to tell it that you want to sell something. There's two different options. You got something, when you go to browse, you're just looking around. When you want to sell something, the first thing it's going to ask you to do is actually post your item. And they want to know what area you are in so that they can actively start, putting those items in when other people in your area are looking for those same items, whether it's just through a search. They actually do kind of a promotional catalog at the very beginning of the app. Once you're in there, just kind of list some things that are in your area. It gives them a basis of the type of things that you might be interested in so that they can continue to show you some of those items. So once you get your location in, you're going to actually get your account set up. And it wants you to, if you're selling it, it wants you to describe your item, set your price, and then, as I mentioned, your delivery method. If it's something that you will actually set an option for shipping, then that's where you would actually take a look at that to get it done. All of the apps actually offer some sort of in-app verification. With this one, you can do it through Facebook. Facebook does a pretty strict verification process nowadays. I know 10 or 12 years ago, it wasn't as strict as it is now, but it does actually, they want to know who you are. So if you're Facebook connected, then the app or OfferUp actually realizes that they know you are who you say you are. They actually have a Join True You, which is a verification system where they actually use your ID. And if you are willing to do that, I don't think I have that verification done on my account. I know that I intended to for some time. I don't think I ever got around to it, but they actually will ask you to upload your ID. and then they send you through a third-party verification system. You can do it through your phone, and then you can do it where, of course, you're uploading your image. One of the things about the apps that I'm talking about tonight is there's a certain level of anonymity that you have if you have reservations about being online, because you can actually set your username to whatever you want, and you can actually set your picture to whatever you want. So you have to use a facial photo if you don't feel comfortable doing that. And you don't have to use your full name or your real name, uh, nickname or tag or whatever you want to call it. And because it's gone through the verification process, if you wanted to use like Mom of Boys is one I've used in the past, something like that. People know, well, if she's got boys, she's probably got boy things. Just something for them to be able to identify. But you can use whatever type of nickname you want. So there is a certain level of anonymity. And then once you get into the actual community, you're going to be able to go in there, search for things, and set up alerts if you'd like. You'll be able to save things by clicking on the little heart or favoriting those, and they will come up. They will also, if you select for the notifications to come through, they'll tell you when that item sells. And so I go through pretty often and kind of favorite things just so that I can know if the price drops on some things. But the notifications will come through pretty regularly if you've got a lot of items saved. So just be aware of that. If you opt in for the notifications, every time one of those items gets sold, OfferUp will actually let you know that the item that you saved is sold, and they will also begin to recommend some other items because obviously you've missed out on that one. You'll be able to go in and actually change your profile at any time if you want to change your picture or change your nickname or your profile name. And then the link that you use for your profile, you'll be able to go in and change that as well if you wanted it to go like to your Facebook page and that sort of thing. When we talk about the location, remember we said before that you are actually going to be able to ship things now. So when you set the location, if someone else determines that they want to go out, as far as 15, 20, or 30 miles to look for the item that they're searching for, and you're within that distance, then your items will show up. So that's why they're asking for your location. You can just click on Get My Location. You don't have to put your zip code in, but that actually means that you're opening up like your GPS on your phone. And so you're allowing the app to use your location. I typically don't give these apps as much access to my data as, some of the others that I'm interacting with people that I know, but I will, just give them a zip code. That's a little broader area. So, I could be anywhere in there. Once you get your item up, if you are posting an item to sell, just like with everything else, you're going to actually talk about the description. As I mentioned, you're going to talk about the condition of the item. You're going to set your price. And then again, you're going to determine if you are willing to ship it or not. The OfferUp is a free app. It's completely free to use, which is one of the benefits. But the bump feature actually sends your item to the top to make it easier to sell. So if you want to bump your item up to the top, it's almost like an ad. And so there's a promotion tab, and I'll show you that in just a second, but there's a promotion tab that's just underneath the photo of whatever items you've posted. So let's just say, for instance, you listed, an item and you really wanted to move, you're trying to move it, and you listed it, 3 or 4 weeks ago. Well, when someone logs into OfferUp, they're going to see the newest items first. And so your item, though, if they're not searching specifically for it, like I mentioned, there's a catalog of sort that kind of gives the users a collage of things that are available in the area that people can kind of browse through. Your item's not going to show up at the top of that, they call it a pile anymore. So you can bump your item so that people that are just logging on, people that haven't been on in a while, people that are brand new users will see your item first. And so that's called a bump. And in order to bump it, you're going to actually just go over to click on the item you want to promote and then click promote. So the bump rates, it makes it where the app is no longer free. if you have an item that has not sold and you're ready to move it, you can get a 3-day bump for $7.99, which means for the 72 hours following when you actually select that promotion, your item will show up at the top or on that first page anytime someone logs in. If you want to do that for a whole week, you're going to pay a promotion fee of $12.99. If you want to do that for two complete weeks, you're going to pay a promotion fee of just under $20 at $19.99. Just a few items to keep in mind as we continue to talk about safety when you're using these apps. You want to make sure that you understand when you sign up what people are seeing. So when you sign up with OfferUp, customers are going to see your name on OfferUp. And again, you don't have to use your full legal name. You can have a nickname of sorts, but they will see what your OfferUp name is. They will see your profile and your profile background photo. So if you've got a profile, you can actually add a few photos there. But if you've got a profile, just know that people are seeing whatever you post on there. And then if you are, as I recommended, getting reviews, whether they are solicited or not, your customers are going to actually see those reviews. Any rating that people have given you as a seller or as a buyer are going to show up when they click on your profile. Any items that you're selling, so you can actually save a seller or a buyer. If you have a few, you might meet with the buyer and then they tell you they've got something for sale because they're buying something from you, and they collect different items. So in that exchange, you might find out that they have things listed that you're interested in as well. So you can go back and actually save that individual. The approximate location is the pinpoint that I showed you. If you opt to give them or share that information as opposed to just a zip code, they'll be able to see that. And any badges that you've earned, this is things like, listed your first item, sold your first item, you've got 3 reviews, they've got their own in-app set of badges, but those are going to show up on your profile. And one good thing about OfferUp is it tells the people that are reviewing your profile the month and year that you joined. So it will tell them immediately if you're a longtime user, if you're just hopping on, that sort of thing. And you might wonder, well, why is that important? But as a buyer, if I'm buying things, I want to know if I'm dealing with somebody that, has a brand new profile, they just set it up and they've never sold anything before. Personally, I want to know that just because I know that they may be kind of new to the transactions. And if I've got a little more experience, things like making a recommendation about meetup spots and that sort of thing, I can actually kind of take the lead on that if they've never done it before. But it will tell them exactly how long you've been on the app as a buyer or seller. And again, sometimes people will have a certain level of comfort if they know that you've been on the app for 2 or 3 years and that you've got some positive reviews. So those things combined go hand in hand, and it will give a buyer a certain level of comfort. So again, OfferUp is a great little tool. It's not nearly as widely used, I'll say, just because the others have more downloads. Excuse me, it just may mean that it's not as widely used in certain areas. So if you've got an app that's being used in a large metropolitan area where you've got a lot more people in that area, have a tendency to use it, and you'll have more people that are downloading it. But it doesn't mean that in your area, some of these others may not be just as popular and beneficial to you. The great thing about them, again, is that they're all free, excuse me, to use, to download and to start using. And so you can actually get started and download several of them and see which one works best for you, whether it's the platform, whether it's the user interface. Sometimes it may just be the customer service, but overall, there may be one app that you like over the other. So my recommendation is to go ahead and try them all. But specifically with OfferUp, one of the things that people are saying is that it's fast and easy to use. Now that's from a UI or a user interface, as opposed to the next one where it's kind of like, it's easy to sell stuff. So it helps you sell stuff you don't need. That's what people are saying about it. The other thing, as I mentioned, is there's less spam. And I think that's in comparison to like a Craigslist. But just keep in mind when you're using any of these apps that people will try to sell you fake stuff, especially collectibles. And if you've got rare items, it's unfortunate, but those are the times we live in. People are always out to try to get over. So just be aware of everything that's going on. And if you're out to buy something, then make sure that you as a buyer know exactly what to look for as far as authenticity. If there needs to be a certificate of authenticity, or if there needs to be a serial number, ask all those questions on the front end. Do your due diligence on the front end. If you can get a picture of serial numbers and that sort of thing, and do the research to make sure that the item is not fake or stolen or whatever before you actually arrange to meet up with someone, then that will save you the headache of, having to go back and try to file a police report and that sort of thing. I can tell you that the apps themselves, they are really just here for advertising your items that you want to get rid of. They are not going to offer you any sort of legal help in the event that someone scams you, or, heaven forbid that something bad happens. So we are giving you information about the apps because they are a great way to get rid of things, as well as I mentioned, a great way to find items to sell. But just make sure that you do your due diligence and that you are always, always keeping safety top of mind. So when we talked about OfferUp, we're at the 10 million mark. And as I mentioned, there's a growing number of these websites and apps that's making it so much easier. Before I said it makes it easier to sell things, but just in general, you've got a lot of people using these apps. So when you're looking to get rid of things, the buyers, they're all out there. They're online. So again, people are going to have their preference about which ones they use. So if you've got a really hot item or something that you really need to move, my recommendation is that you cross-post it. So OfferUp, at last I checked, was about 10 million users. Mercari, which came from overseas, it was actually a Japanese site, but it's here in the US now. It has about 6 million users. And I will personally say, I like Mercari, and I do it mainly I use Mercari mainly for selling. So I use OfferUp a lot to source things that I'm going to sell. But I do use Mercari more than some of the others for selling. And for me, it's just a personal preference, and it's just about ease of use. So again, I recommend that you try them all. It's not costing you anything, and it's very easy to just uninstall an app if you decide it's something that you don't like for whatever reason. If it's, the number of promotions that they do, or the number of notifications, or whatever that might be. If there's one that you like over the others, you can just uninstall them. So with Mercari, it's a little bit of a different process, but I'll step you through it. Once you get the app installed, like the others, you're going to create a profile. And with Mercari, instead of sell, I think they call it list, but you're going to give them pictures and a category. And again, we're going to overemphasize that as much as we can. The detailed description. You want to include as much information as possible. Again, you're dealing with people that are online, but for whatever reason, they may not call things the same thing you call them, and they might have questions about, specific colors. If your camera's not high quality, or if it's in bad lighting or something, they may actually reach out to you to ask, is this item closer to green in color, or closer to teal in color, or blue, or whatever. So if you can actually put those things in the listing, that the tag says teal, but it's actually more blue. Those sorts of things will help people when they go to make a decision about whether or not to buy your item. So you just want to include as much information as possible. And obviously you want to set your price. When you go here with Mercari, it is only shipping, but you want to make sure that if you go in here, people are able to actually send you offers. If you allow that, you're going to review your offers, you're going to make negotiations, and then you're going to accept the offers if they will work for you. And one of the things that you're going to do when you actually set it up is determine whether or not you're going to pay for shipping or the buyer's going to pay for shipping. Either way, Mercari offers a flat rate shipping. So it's up to a certain amount. I don't know how they work this out with the post office. I've actually wondered about that. But if it's up to a certain weight, then it's this amount. And it doesn't matter about first class or priority or any of that. It's just a flat rate. And if it's over that weight, then you're going to pay a different amount. And so when you see that, it'll actually tell you when you make the listing, but you want to make sure that you are clear about how much you want to make on the item. So if you're going to have to pay for the shipping, again, it's a great promotional tool to be able to offer free shipping, but we don't want to, encourage you to lose your shirt behind trying to get the item out. So it's perfectly okay to say, that the buyer is going to pay for the shipping. If it's an item that they really want, and the price is reasonable, absolutely, they'll buy it on other sites, they'll buy it here. Just make sure that you set it out at the very beginning, who's going to pay for the shipping, and that you've actually factored that into the profit or the cost the price that you want to get for it and the profit that you want to make if you are indeed selling items for profit. Once the payment is all done in app, once that's done, you'll get a notification to ship the item. And once you ship it, I think Mercari actually gives you like 3 days after they receive it, but you will go and review your buyer. And this is a must in this app, which is one of the reasons I like it. Even as a seller, you're required to review the buyers. And as a buyer, you are required to review the sellers. And even if you don't review them, if you don't say that anything bad happened, then they will go ahead and give that transaction a rating. So it's a great way to be able to actually build up some credibility online. And just again, a way to kind of know what the app looks like when you have some familiarity when you go into it. It does have kind of a purplish blue background. Once you get set up, when you get ready to set up your app, they're going to ask you some questions, of course. Are you here to buy or sell? And that's just so they know kind of where to guide you with the next pages. But you will want to enable your push notifications if you are selling, specifically if you're selling, because you don't want to have an item that you've sold and the buyer's waiting for shipping and you haven't been in the app in 3 days. And so you don't know that the item is sold and now you get a bad rating or the buyer cancels the transaction because they haven't heard from you. So when you are a seller, I recommend you enable the push notification so that you'll get a message on your screen on your device that says ship now. It'll tell you that you've sold something and that it's time to ship it. And again, regardless of who's paying for the shipping, that'll be done at the time they purchase it if the buyer's paying for it, and it'll be done at the time of shipping if you as the seller is paying for the shipping. So again, they require photos, they require description, and the categories are pretty vast on Mercari. I think I have some screenshots later, but the brands, they list out all the brands that they have on their site, which is a great tool for us as sellers, because if you're not familiar with a lot of brands, you'll be able to see in the app, a ton of brands and actually go and do some really, really good research on the front end. So if you're selling an item, it's going to ask you, where you're shipping it from. So you can just put in your zip code there. And that's, again, I don't know that that has anything to do with the shipping like with some of our other platforms like eBay, because it's not used as a factor to determine the price. So you go through, when I haven't seen any real promotion for Mercari like on television or anything like that, but I have seen it pop up as, like a recommendation, let's just say on some of my friends and my son's devices, because of some of the other activities that we're involved in, buying and selling on other sites, and they may not have this one downloaded. So it'll pop up as a recommendation, but I haven't seen a lot of promotion about it. So one of the things I like about it is, again, you can buy or sell almost anything. I have been amazed at some of the things that I found on there. I remember the old eBay commercials where no matter what you were looking for, you found it on eBay. And so here with Mercari, which, like I said, is an old spinoff of a Japanese technology, you can find just about anything on here. And I've been able to find things to drop ship. People sell on here a lot of things brand new in the package, as well as you know, offloading some of the things that they have around the house. I personally have bought, you know, like college gear from my old alma mater, things that, you know, I can't find because I don't live in that state. So I can go online and pretty much find just about anything. And I can determine if I want just free, want to look at items that only offer free shipping, if I only want to look at new items, if I want to see, you know, things that have already sold, because in all actuality, it gives you a pretty good idea about things that you may not, you know, have even thought about. So depending on what you put into that search bar, there's going to be quite a few options available to you, but you want to make sure that you kind of know what you're using each of the apps for. If you're using it mainly for selling, if you're using it to buy things that you're going to sell on another site, or even on this one, I've actually bought things on this site, especially as a lot, and turned right around and sold them on this site. Again, if people are looking for things, especially what time of year are we in? If people are looking for things to sell, looking for things to buy, I'm sorry, then they're looking everywhere. They're looking everywhere. And if you've got it up, if you've got, you know, I might buy a lot of 20 of something and I may sell it in lots of 4 or 5, and then more than make my money back, especially if it's a hot item. So that person may have gotten it at a really good price. You don't ever know what people's motivation is when they are selling some of these items. They may have bought too many. They have, you know, a bunch of grandkids, but some of them didn't like it. But whatever the case may be, just know that when you go into the app, you know, kind of know what your motivation is for loading the apps, if it's going to be just for selling some things, or if you're going to use it to try to find things, you know, either to use for your own personal needs, or if you're going to try and sell those someplace else. So again, just giving you an idea of what some of the screens may look like, so you know you're in the right place once you get it downloaded. But you can search for just about anything. And again, they've got a ton of categories. I'm super excited to show you kind of what you will be able to see when you get in there. But this is what you'll see in your from your profile. You'll be able to sell from your profile. You'll be able to see anything that you've favorited or that you've saved. And then, of course, if you've got messages from buyers, or if you make an offer and you've got a message from a seller, and then anything that you've already purchased will kind of show up in your history. And then whatever listings you have, whether they've been deactivated or not, they'll show up in there. And then, of course, they have a help center for customer service. It's all done online. There's no number for you to call. And then you'll be able to sign out from that same place, right from your profile. I cannot emphasize this enough, but the growing number of online users make it a lot easier to find buyers. And I cannot tell you how much inventory you can get online at some of these apps. So the thing I love about Mercari, because I was one of those kind of only knew what I knew about as far as some of the brands. I wasn't a thrifter. I follow a lot of the thrifters now, and so I see them making a big to-do about, you know, brands that I had never heard of. But Mercari not only lists out a ton of brands in alphabetical order so that you can go and do a ton of research, kind of find out, you know, if you see something that's kind of cool looking, but you see a lot of likes on it, or you see a lot of activity around that item and you're wondering like, well, what is that? You can actually go to the list of brands, click on the brand, and, you know, it'll give you a little bit of information about how many of those items are actually listed on Mercari, and you can go and do, you know, some of your own research. In addition to that, they've got a list of the top brands. So these are the items on their website that are selling the most. And again, you can find just about anything on here, but I have used this as a really good tool to be able to do some of my own research, as well as find out, you know, if there's something that I'm looking at on another site, or if there's something that I can't sell on another site, hint, hint, because of restrictions, or because, you know, for whatever reason I'm not allowed, then here's an opportunity for me to go in and say, well, you know what, these same things are actually being sold in great quantities over here. So I'm going to take those items that I found that were on clearance, that were restricted for whatever reason. I know we've gone through a ton of different training scenarios, but we want to make sure that we emphasize to everyone, just because you can't sell an item in a major marketplace, it doesn't mean that there's not money to be made in all of these different arenas. So this I love about Mercari because they list out all of their top brands. And this is a pretty, it changes depending on what's being sold, but this is a pretty extensive list a pretty comprehensive list as far as what they have on here because it goes from A to Z. So I think there may be a few that aren't listed on that screenshot, but for the most part, that capture them all, most of them. And so again, you're able to actually favorite items or save them. You're able to click on a little heart and you'll be able to come back and see the items that you've saved. Again, this is great for research because you'll be able to see how those items are trending, how many people are watching it and that sort of thing, especially if it's something that you're either thinking about listing or something that you're thinking about buying in order to list. And maybe not on this particular platform, but again, this is a great place to start with some of the research. So you'll be able to come back to those items time and time again, even after they have sold. I think it's about a 2-month window, but you'll still be able to see the items. And so, the price, if the seller changes the price or something like that, you'll get a notification. But at the time that it sells, you'll actually be able to see that. So if it sells and you missed it and it sold for a really good price, you can kind of set your own price point and say, okay, well, I know that it's at least available or has been at this price. So I'm going to, set that as one of my parameters when I go to search. I want this brand, I want it in new condition, and I want it for under this price. And again, setting your favorites here, saving items, is just going to give you another opportunity or another gauge of, the popularity of items and the actual price point that they're selling for. You want to make sure that when you upload these items or download these apps, that you stay on top of any changes. Just like all technology, things are constantly a moving and a changing. And so if there are things that are going to affect your profile and or your sales, you want to make sure that you're aware of those. So the notifications are going to be about sales specifically, but they're going to be messages that pop up in your profile as well. And if it's a new one, it's going to tell you there's cancellation reviews. That's a new thing that they started. But in order to protect the marketplace, now if you cancel an order, people are going to see that. If the buyer cancels the order, people are going to see that on their profile. And so if there's seller that's consistently canceling things for whatever reason, you're listing it, you're cross-posting it, and you're not taking it down, and now you don't have it, that's going to reflect negatively on you as a seller. And so you want to make sure that, and just as they mentioned here, that you're being reliable and that you're delivering as promised. Every app kind of has, they want their marketplace to be seen as a safe place for people to come and buy things. And so people don't want to get their hopes up, buy something, whether it's for a gift or something that they need for a special event, and then have it never show up. And so we want reliable sellers on all platforms. And of course, the sellers, we want reliable buyers who are actually going to come back and pay for that purchase if it's not done at the time that they commit to buying it. So in this case, Mercari has actually recognized that at some point that may have been a problem. And now that actually shows up on your profile page. So you don't want to be known as a seller who cancels. And so the number of cancellations that you have is actually going to show up there. And so those are now in this app. That's a part of the review process. And personally, I think that that's a good thing. I know that, we strive for 5-star reviews. We strive for positive reviews on every other platform. And so now they've kind of taken heed and they're offering a similar rating system for the buyers as well as the sellers. So just make sure you're on top of anything that might change in the app, especially if you didn't know that that was happening and someone logs into Mercari and clicks on your item ready to buy it, and they see that you've had a number of cancellations and you didn't even know that they were seeing that. So just make sure you stay on top of any of the changes that are going on. So just as a recap, we do have some overall recommendations whenever you're using the mobile apps. You want to make sure that you're taking really good pictures. I know we say this in every training for every listing, but you want to make sure that your listings are including really good photos. You want bright, vibrant pictures, and it's going to make your item sell even faster. It may seem like a small thing, but if someone can't really tell what the color is, or they can't really tell what the condition is, a lot of times they're not going to take the time to reach out and ask the question, is that a tear? Is that a snag? Is that a stain or whatever? If they can't tell, make it out, they'll just move on to the next item and not make the purchase. You want to make sure that the beneficial pictures that you have, if you have them in a folder or wherever, that they're actually getting uploaded. If the app will allow for 5 photos, take 5 photos. I mean, it can be different angles. You can take it from the top, you can take it from the side, you can take it in the sunlight, you can take it, in natural light, as well as, the lighting in the room or whatever, just so that people can kind of get an idea of, sharp edges versus rounded edges, or whatever the case may be. You want to upload as many photos as the app will allow. And then if you've got problems with the condition of an item, make sure that you're documenting that with photos, as well as mentioning it in the description of the item. It helps to cut down on negative feedback. Someone gets something that they're not expecting. And if you're honest about the condition of the item, if someone is a great seamstress and it has a small tear at the bottom of the hem or whatever, that's not going to be a deal breaker. They may come back, and try to negotiate a few dollars off of it. But if it's keeping you from having to make the repair and you don't have to deal with the negative feedback, go ahead, put that information in there, be as upfront as you possibly can, and be candid about any issues with the condition. It helps to reduce negative feedback. When you put your description in, again, I mentioned it, but if you are very, very thorough in your description, you're going to save time when you don't have to go back and answer question after question after question about the item, because you mentioned this, but you didn't mention that. This size package or that size package, they offer it in different, quantities or whatever. You don't have to keep answering those questions, those repetitive questions. And so it's going to save you time. And I promise you, it'll save you a lot of frustration, and it helps the item sell faster as well. Make sure your item is priced appropriately. Don't overprice, but absolutely do not underprice. You don't want to sell yourself short. If you've got a hot item, set your price. Your price is your price. Let people, watch it if they want to for a little while. But if it's something that they really want, they're going to pay it. And you don't want to overprice it. You don't want to price yourself out of the market on whatever it is. You take a look at what some of the other sellers might have it listed for. But again, you don't know their scenario. You don't know what they paid for it. They may have, gotten it in a storage auction. They may have gotten it in a wholesale lot. They may have gotten it, in the bottom of something else they were buying. It may have been free. So you don't know what their motivation is for selling it. And if they're selling it a lot cheaper than you think, for what you think it's worth, you let them sell theirs, and then the next buyer that comes along, once theirs is gone, that'll be your buyer. The bump feature, if the app offers it, I mentioned it in Let Go. I know that Mercari doesn't offer it, but some of the others OfferUp and Let Go, they offer something similar to that. And it moves your older listings back to the front of the pile. It makes it so that it's visible again if it's been a few weeks or months since you listed it, and it hasn't sold. You may start getting views and likes all over again. It also, when someone else comes back and likes it, someone that looked at it a while ago and forgot about it will get a notification, saying that this item has a lot of likes, or a lot of people are looking at this item. Grab it now before it goes. And so it'll give your buyers, potential buyers, an opportunity to come back and take a second look at your item. And above all else, please be safe. We've talked a few times about the safe exchange locations. Some of them call them safe exchange areas. But look it up. See if it's available. And if it's not, take a friend, take a buddy. Don't go alone if possible. And never give your personal information out to anyone online, let alone, someone that is saying that they're buying something. And then you have the option now with all of the verification uses that they have to only buy from people that have been verified. Their name has been verified. If they use a True You profile, then you know that they've been background checked. If you verify it through Facebook, you know that Facebook now, not always, but has a pretty strict policy of actually using your legal name. And so even if they're not using their legal name on one of these platforms or one of these other apps, you know that they've been verified so that the app or the owner of the app actually knows who this person is, regardless of whether they call themselves, you know, Mima or Papa on the app. Someone knows who that person is. So if you buy from verified users, it'll increase your safety. Again, just be aware that if you are a buyer or a seller, that now you're being rated, and that's based on your past purchases as well as anything that you might sell. So even though it's less anonymous, you know, than what you might like, the reason why people were selling on Craigslist before, you know, they didn't want to share personal information. The fact that the pictures there and the fact that the ratings are there, that alone can help make you feel safer, either whether you're buying online or whether you're selling online, just to know that someone, whoever created the app, has gone an extra step to make sure that they have tried to build some safety features into there. You still have to use your common sense. You still have to be super prudent when you're going out and, you know, aware of your surroundings and making sure that you're not, you know, carrying a wad of cash and that sort of thing, and meeting in well-lit places. But overall, I've used each of these apps, and for the most part, I've always felt, you know, safe in using them. You know, people list things on a variety of different platforms or whatever, and knowing that an app has been created, that people are downloading it from a personal device, and that they are actually using at least a bit of personal information, it makes it, you know, it makes me feel a little bit safer. It's not completely anonymous, but it does offer some anonymity in terms of I don't have to use my legal name and I don't have to give anyone my personal photo if I don't want to. So easy and convenient to have a conversation right in the app, to express interest or to negotiate prices. And in this case, with all these apps, you don't ever have to give out your phone number or any of your personal information to anyone. So again, there's a level of anonymity, even though we know that it can all be tracked using our devices. So it gives me a little bit of a better feeling about it. So again, every app has its own review system that allows others to rate you and write reviews. So as a tip, always ask for those reviews. If you're actually meeting with someone face to face, you know, that's a great time to just tell them, hey, as soon as I appreciate you coming out, as soon as I get back, I'm going to make sure, you know, I give you a positive rating. I appreciate it if you would do the same thing for me. I've got a lot of things I want to sell, and I want to make sure the rating on there. Mentioning the safety again, I wanted to point out that there are actually a few places, but if one of them doesn't offer something local for you, you can check the other. Toward the bottom of the screen, safetradestations.com lists some of those stations, but again, it's not all areas that are listed on there. And then over to the right, safeexchangepoint.com also has local zones that are set up near, some of them are set up near post offices, some of them are set up near police stations, but these are areas that have actually been allocated or allotted for the purposes of actually going out and exchanging merchandise for cash or trading or bartering or whatever you're doing. So just wanted to make sure that I at least gave you a few of those sites, and you can just, you know, Google safe exchange zones near me or safe places to, you know, sell items or whatever. If you're in a more rural area, these may not work for you, but just make sure, as I mentioned before, that you're either taking a buddy or that you are actually meeting in a very public place. Again, I want to say it, but there's a number of sites coming up, and that makes it easier to sell online. So I hope you got some really good information, some valuable information that you'll be able to use going forward about OfferUp and about Mercari. And as I mentioned, the next part of this training, I'll actually cover Poshmark, which is kind of more for the vintage and or luxury items, and Etsy, which has a great use for some vintage items, but mostly handmade type items. Facebook Marketplace, when I mentioned it in our last session, has probably more users on because it's attached to Facebook than any of the others. Not everyone uses Marketplace, but I will absolutely share some great tidbits on how to sell in some of those groups, as well as some of the things that I've been able to implement on the Marketplace in and of itself. So I will get that third part, the third installment of this training uploaded throughout the week while we are out on Thanksgiving break. And I just wanted to make sure that I wished you all a great rest of the week, a great break, and we will see you back here in a couple of weeks. Have a great night.